Customerland is a podcast about customers, how to get more of them, how to keep them, what makes them tick. We talk to the experts, the technologies, and occasionally actual people, customers, to find out what they're all about. So if you're a CX pro, a loyalty marketer, a brand owner, an agency planner, if you're a CRM and personalization geek, if you're a customer service, CSAT, NPS nerd, you finally have a home. I'm Mike Giambattista. Welcome to Customerland. Peter Vanderputten is director of Pega's AI Lab, and I can't think of a better person to be talking to at this moment in time about the crush of opinion, frantic fear, and everything that the news cycles are spinning out on generative AI, ChatGPT, and its successors. Are we all doomed? Is there enterprise utility for this? So Peter has a deep understanding, one, of the technology and how it works, but I think, as I understand your role at Pega, also a deep understanding of its utility. So Peter, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
So I have way more questions than our session will allow for. So, but why don't we start here? Why don't we, if you would, talk to us a little bit about your role at Pega and how you are involved in generative AI and what you're doing with that notion.
No, absolutely. So I'm, like you said, I'm the director of the AI Lab. So I'm pretty much the AI guy. And Pega as a company, we help our customers operate in the kind of in the world nowadays where we see a lot of change, and we help our clients to kind of react to that change by doing a better job at customer-centric one-to-one marketing, by translating, moving from, say, product experiences to end-to-end customer journeys, but also by doing more with less, like becoming more efficient, more effective. And how we do it, I quite often talk about the brain and the muscle. So on one side, we're pretty good, if I may say myself, in terms of automating processes and journeys and things like that. But on the other side, we're also focused on what we call AI-powered decisioning, or essentially how can we bring intelligence into a process or into an interaction to achieve better goals. So that's as the director of the AI Lab, that's what I'm focusing on, right? So how can we use that intelligence to not just automate, but make interactions smarter and more, not just more efficient, but also more effective.
So before we get into the question that everybody wants to know is civilization doomed because of this? We're hoping for a positive answer on that. But, from where I sit, covering technology from the sidelines, AI has been in development and becoming more sophisticated over the past, since I became aware of its practical enterprise utility maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And then what seems like literally yesterday, ChatGPT comes out and the whole world is up in arms about its possibilities, potentials, and, plus and minus. But I'm interested in the process as it kind of unfolded at Pega, where you were employing AI-based concepts and technologies to what you seem to be doing now. I'm sure was something of a process. Can you talk about that, what that's looked like, say, over the past several years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I kind of empathize with what you're saying, that on one side, AI has been around for ages, but on the flip side, it has gotten a lot more kind of attention nowadays. There's also this wonderful, there's this quote, which goes a bit like that we underestimate, sometimes we overestimate the impact of a new technology the short-term impact, but we underestimate the long-term impact. And of course, AI has been through a number of summers and winters, but it takes a while for technology to really catch on in terms of not just being out there, but actually having an application, right? So, to your question, like we saw a lot of attention for things like back then in the 90s, it was maybe called data mining and things like that. People were doing knowledge discovery in databases, trying to find interesting patterns. But at some point, the realization hit like, okay, but what are we going to do with all those insights? Yeah, so I think then artificial intelligence made a little bit of a transition more into what I would like to call maybe actionable intelligence. And so how to make that intelligence actually actionable, how to translate it into decisions, real-time decisions that you would make and when you're dealing with a customer around what's the best offer to show or what's the resolution to a customer problem and things like that. So that was maybe the evolution one, where we really doubled down on going from AI as in artificial intelligence to actionable intelligence. What we're seeing now, of course, is that we're kind of moving from this brain that can optimize and that can decide to also using the creative powers of AI. So how can we combine? How can we, actually leverage AI's ability to become creative, and becoming creative, of course, it could mean a lot of things. Right now, it kind of materializes as a chat GPT, that you can ask all kinds of questions. But obviously, what a lot of companies are doing, or where the real benefits are, is when you look at particular use cases that you would develop on top of that creative technology.
I'm really interested in hearing how Pega will be using the generative AI capabilities that are being developed right now. But I'm really intrigued by something you said, because it resonated with me. That we tend to maybe overestimate the short-term impact of technologies like this and underestimate the long-term. Now, I've heard this put a couple of different ways recently. One was that in terms of marketing, we're kind of at the dancing cigarette box of what AI can do, the reference goes back to the early days of TV, when the smartest thing you could do was to put a cigarette box on there and have somebody dance around inside of it, and that would get people's attention. And as we all know, TV exploded into this huge visual medium, which does, a billion other things, has impacted us in innumerable ways. And someone else put it similarly and said that this is basically the refrigerator moment, when, yes, there are people out there who can build a good refrigerator, but it was people like Coca-Cola in that day who said, look what we can now do that we could never do before, and created an entire industry out of some new technology that hadn't existed before. So there's a question buried in there, and that is, the short-term over-indexing of our excitement and fears it's being well played out in media. But the longer term, I'm really interested in what your thoughts are on how that might look 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Like, what are those things that you think are going to change because of this technology?
Yeah, so I think that's an awesome question. And I think it's good to maybe take a step back when you think about that. We have a variety of use cases in customer service and intelligent automation, but let's take marketing here. I think what people also tend to forget if a new technology arrives, that, what is our goal? What is our goal in this particular context? And so what are we trying to do in marketing? And so I think it's quite healthy to think in terms of marketing concepts. For example, let's say we did some research and we found out that the majority of customers they are convinced that companies are not doing what's not doing what is in the best interest of the customer, but it's primarily doing what's right for the company. Yeah. So, and of course, that leads to irritation on behalf of the customer, right? Because if I open up my mobile banking app, I want my bank to understand that it's Peter and not someone else, but also my real-time context. Did my credit card just get blocked? That's a different Peter than an hour ago. Yeah. Or ultimately, I have all kinds of moral expectations, even where I say, well, I expect the bank to do what's right for me, not just what's right for the bank. Yeah. So, and of course, a lot of organizations still have issues to kind of deliver on that because they're kind of lacking that central brain, where you would say, where you would really not start with the marketing offer or the marketing campaign, but where you actually start with the customer and look across all of the actions that you have and think about what is the right thing to actually do here to deliver on all of those expectations, not just personalization towards the customer, but also the real-time circumstance and the moral expectations that we have. So I think ultimately that should be the goal of AI, to provide that relevant contextual experience. And I think and then it becomes maybe also a little bit clearer, because on one side you can imagine that, okay, we've been talking about AI a lot, but ultimately where it can help here is to provide, let's say, the optimization of AI, let's say the left brain of AI, trying to figure out which messages customers are more likely to respond to, which are more likely to be relevant for customers, and having the classical AI with your business rules, trying to figure out really what's the right thing to do. And then on the flip side, where it can go is that if we can plug in, if we use the right brain AI, let me call it like that for a brief moment, and the creative intelligence of AI to keep feeding this brain with all kinds of interesting treatments, actions, experiences that could possibly be relevant in a particular context. So the left brain is matching the customer in the context to the right message, but the right brain will continuously come up with all kinds of interesting, let's say, interesting things to talk about, or also interesting ways to talk about the same thing. Yeah, and that's, I think, where the creative AI can actually help a lot. But it's all a means to an end. Yeah. So if a new technology arrives, where I wanted to go is then short-term people are thinking in terms of the technology as a goal. But ultimately, technology should be a means to an end, and the end should be here. Like, how can we provide more customer-centric experiences to our customers? Yeah. So, and if you ask me to look in the glass ball, where could be a couple of years from now? Yeah, it will all be marching towards that particular goal. Yeah.
This isn't so much a sponsor message as it is an encouragement. Each year for the past 20 years or so, the world's best marketers have been gathering in Chicago for 2.5 days of high-level learning and networking. It's called CRMC. On my calendar, I've placed a hard hold on June 7th through the 9th so that I can be there and be a part of what's about to happen in retail, in loyalty, and in technology. You should be there too. You can learn more and you can register in the link below this podcast, or you can go directly to the event website at thecrmc.com. That's thecrmc.com. I go to my fair share of events throughout the year. CRMC is my one can't miss event of the year. I hope to see you there. I like the way you frame that up. There are left brain functionality and right brain functionality, but ultimate best case utility is when both of those are supporting one another for a particular outcome.
Yep.
And I was looking at some of the notes here before we started this conversation, and I think and I don't know whether this was Pega's talking point, if you will, But it's the way it's stated: leverage AI as a starting point. And generative AI gives low-code developers an infinite library of process and case templates. AI can provide a starting point, but we must maintain the position to refine it, improvise it, and ultimately govern it. It seems like that kind of a statement, just if you'll just put that out there with no other context, does a lot to alleviate a lot of the anxiety that is in the media right now over the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, everyone is thinking about hell. I can't do this for you, right? So the 1960s movie where there's an AI autonomously kind of talking to a customer. That's the way how we use ChatGPT to do our homework or whatever. But I think in a lot of use cases. Will be use cases where there's a human in the loop here, where there would be a marketer in the loop, where the marketer uses it as a creative tool to come up with all kinds of treatments. For example, one of the use cases we're working on is, let's say you have a particular, next best action that you want to introduce around, I don't know, it could be something very sales and marketing oriented, like ordering a customer a new platinum card, but it could even be something which has nothing to do with selling something to a customer, and more about how can the customer actually get more value out of the bank in this example, rather than the other way around, like warning them about expiring credit card points. Yeah, so or nudging them that they can get money back from the government because they just put solar panels on their roof. Still, the way you kind of entice customers to respond positively to such a message depends very much on how you translate what kind of treatment you would use in that context. So an example that we use is to say, well, can you maybe use different persuasion styles? So if you take that same, let's say that same next best action treatment, with the credit cards expiring or whatever, and then you could say, you can make it more around social proof, you can make it more around reciprocity, about liking, so social proof would be, did you know that last year 89% of our customers spent all of their points on their credit card, and your cards are about to expire, so please use them, because that's what they're for. That's social proof. Versus reciprocity, or liking could be, we really value our customers, and we do know that sometimes there's a time of giving back, and our loyalty points are a way to give back to you as a valued customer. So, even though it might be good for us because it doesn't cost, we're saving money if you're not spending them. We really want you to spend your points. Yeah. So basically, we can tell the AI to say, well, we have actually this particular, let's say, marketing proposition. What are the different ways to communicate that to the customer and generate those variants? On the flip side, that drives even more of a need if you have such an explosion of new treatments, new ways to talk about a particular, let's say, marketing proposition. There will be an explosion, even bigger explosion of messages, right? So you do need the left brain then even more to figure out in in those 50 milliseconds when I open up my mobile banking app, what it is that we should be doing here.
I'm intrigued by some of the subtleties that I've kind of become aware of even in recent weeks. I know, when you're talking about the tone of messages and the kinds of messaging and even the cultural nuances that have to be taken into consideration at scale, that becomes a huge and daunting task. But generative AI, certain applications are, they've got a large language model that is so sophisticated now that it can take cues from past communications and communicate back to me in a language that it feels I will best receive, which is a pretty unique talent. And I know a lot of copywriters out there are a little bit scared for their jobs because of that, because That takes a lot of nuance. It takes a lot of perception to try and figure that out. But here it is happening. I mean, uh, I guess when I was first introduced to ChatGPT, just to try out some things, we did some article composition on it, and to be really transparent, the articles it generated the content. It was all true and correct, but it was as dry as a sweater. It
Exactly. It can get quite bland, right? So I
incredibly
think
bland.
exactly. So the trick here is, the trick. The key thing here is that is actually prompt engineering as well, right? So plus evaluating the output. Yeah. So, and I think that's maybe when you talk about how do roles shift, how does the role of a content-oriented marketer actually shift? It might be actually in trying to figure out, how do I steer the AI to come up with good content? But also, like I said, I don't foresee that marketing use case in a way where there's some completely unconstrained AI that in the moment then actually also generates the particular text that's going to be used for that offer. Probably beforehand, there will be a marketer who looks at who's using creative AI to create like lots of offer and treatment variants, right? So, but the marketer will do it in such a way where they're applying their brains in terms of, hey, what kind of treatment variants do I need here? Am I going to use those Cialdini principles for persuasion? Yeah, because is persuasion here the issue here, or should I have more like different types of treatments? One which is more value oriented, one is more, let's say, price oriented. Yeah, and one maybe addressing more like younger audience. This again could be driven by the left brain, and the left brain could give you hints as a marketer where your coverage is a little bit thin, to maybe put it metaphorically, right? But then so you're still applying then your marketing brain to figure out, yeah, okay, but which way should I go, right? And you're evaluating the let's say the different pieces of copy that are being produced. To see like, oh, I can use this one, but this one, it's really unusable. Let's regenerate, or let's just simply ditch it.